All right, so welcome to my community check-in. My name is Judy Hu. I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I've been offering these since the beginning of the pandemic for folks who've been in part of my groups. It's just a way of building community and for me to kind of recharge as well. So I'm going to go through kind of the agenda and then we're going to dive right into visualization, but I'm going to read through this slide because I have ADHD and sometimes I get distracted. So who's here? And attendance fluctuates. So if people come in and out, everyone here who is present and past breaking free participants. So that's my BIPOC group that I lead, and any of my boundary coaching clients, past or present as well. And in addition, there are others who might be curious about starting their own boundary revolution, so working with me. So this is kind of giving a little taste of what they can expect. Why are we here? So collective trauma, which we're in the middle of, we were in the pandemic and now it just keeps collecting with what's happening with the current genocides that are happening. Collective trauma and injustice cannot be processed alone. It's just physically impossible because it's so huge. It'll blow out one person's nervous system to do it. So I'm offering these spaces to gather with intentionality for us to connect, to explore different themes that I offer, and especially to resource. And by resource, I mean, if you are a phone and your battery's at red, this is a place where you're going to plug in and recharge. And I'm going to give you ideas on how you continue that recharge between community check-ins as well. Okay, so the agenda today is the first 5 minutes is the rules of the community, which I'm going to say now. So if you stay, I'm just assuming that you're agreeing to them, okay? You're welcome here as long as you commit to the following: to be respectful, to be brave, to be curious and compassionate, so assuming best intentions, use I statements, protect yourself and protect each other. And I am recording this, so please use discretion about details if you choose to check in. After this, we're going to do a guided meditation. During that guided meditation, if anything's uncomfortable, you just kind of like ignore it, right? So these are suggestions when I'm leading us through a visualization. And then I'm going to talk for about 15 or 20 minutes around the theme of creating joy amidst injustice. And I'm going to request that you hold any questions until the end of that talk. Because I often can sometimes go on all these little detours. So I have a little bit of I sketched out something that I wanted to talk about. And then after that talk is when the community can check in. And it's not like about anything, it's around this particular theme of creating joy amidst injustice. So for instance, anything that comes up for you during the visualization, anything that's coming up for you in your body right now, being in this shared space. Okay, those are the types of things. And what I'll do when people are checking in is I might pause and like ask you to feel into your body or, do a little bit of exploration. And this is a time where if I offer something and you don't want it, please say no. Okay. This is a place where we practice our boundaries. And so I'll invite us to do that. And so that means the priority is given to those who I've worked with before. So, and you trust me to know like how to manage that. Okay. Great. Okay. So I am going to shift to the guided meditation. So I want you to, if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes or you can leave them open and just put your feet on the ground. Okay. And what I like to do before I do my visualizations is I just activate my body a little bit. So I might press the heels of my feet in as if I were walking to engage my leg muscles. And then I pause. And just notice how your feet feel on the ground what parts of your feet are touching the floor. And imagine roots growing from the soles of your feet down through the floor and into the earth. And you might imagine the roots growing deep and wide into the earth. Notice what it feels like to be grounded to this space. And as your roots grow deep and wide, I want you to bring your awareness up, back up to your feet and up through your legs, and just scan your body for any physical sensations. How your legs feel, your knees, your thighs, your sitting bones. And feel free to shift your body if you need to get more comfortable. Scan up through your belly. Make sure your breath is going down to your belly. And then notice your back and your chest. And if you can, straighten your spine a little bit more. Maybe give yourself a really deep inhale and exhale. Notice what your throat feels like in your head. And above your head, I want you to imagine the sun. Right, so if you're a tree, the sun is right above your head and you're just pulling in that light and warmth through the top of your head down into your body and filling your physical body up with warmth and light. And as your body fills up with that light and warmth, I want you to gradually imagine the light emanating from your chest out around you. So you're surrounding yourself with that light. And then notice you're plugged into the earth through your feet, and your head is plugging you into the sun. And so on both ends, you are resourced. And these are endless resources. Okay, so the earth, you can imagine pulling tension and stress and pain, discomfort from your body into the earth, while the sun is nourishing and filling and warming and energizing your body. And I want you to imagine now that you're actually a tree. And you're noticing the temperature of the air around you now. Notice what it feels like for the breeze to come through you, the sounds that you hear. Maybe on one of your branches, nestled in the corner, is a little nest with a bird and their eggs, and noticing squirrels around you, foraging and going up and down your tree trunk. Just notice what that feels like to be rooted and home to some creatures connected to the sun and the earth. And then I invite you to kind of zoom out a little bit. So outside of yourself as a tree filled up with that light and warmth, rooted to the earth, I want you to start to look around and notice the other trees around. You're in a forest. We're in this space, tapped in, not alone. And just notice what that feels like to be in community. And then I want you to zoom out again, a little further out. And amongst in this forest, within it, is this patch that's been burnt and destroyed. And just notice what it feels like to see that part. And again, pull in the light and the warmth to resource your body and to continue to stay tapped in and connected to the earth. Knowing that the roots are like this communication system to create more nutrients into the soil and bring what's needed to protect each other, to heal each other. And then pan out again and see the forest around with these little pockets, right? That you're one of those trees within the forest, and we are all connected. Again, filling up your body with light and warmth. We're going to shrink back down the view from the larger forest down into those of us who are together, and then back down to your body, filling your body up with light and warmth. Again, noticing what it feels like to be grounded. The earth is supporting you without any effort. And the sun is an endless resource you can pull from. And then as I count to 5, you're going to slowly bring your awareness back to the room. 1, 2, you can wiggle your fingers and toes. 3, 4, and when you open your eyes, just slowly orient yourself. So that means just looking over your shoulder, noticing the objects around you in the room that you're in, or wherever you may be, and slowly taking in the environment now. Great. I'm going to talk for about 15 to 20 minutes around creating joy amidst injustice, and then we'll do the check-ins after. Okay, so I'm going to stop the share. If you ever need to go and, get something to drink, or if it's ever too intense, just feel free to take a break and then come back. Okay, take care of you. Everyone who's on the call and who has registered will get a recording of it after. And my dog is distracting me. I apologize. So the basis of everything when I gather communities together is that, and you all know this, okay, but everyone is equal, right? No one is more important than anyone else, and no one is less important than anyone else. And sometimes when we're in the midst of injustice or things that are happening that are really, really stressful, we might either outsize our pain and suffering, right? Like, oh, I don't know how we're going to do this, or might, and just kind of get mired in it. Or we might minimize our needs. How can I have a hard day when other people are starving and all these other things, right? Either way, if we were to outsize or to minimize, we're in the wrong boundary. Because the bottom line is we are as important as everyone else, no more and no less. As important as. And so I noticed there are times when I'm seeing what's around me, or if I notice that other people are struggling and I feel a sense of joy, sometimes I feel guilty or ashamed, like, oh, I have too much privilege, or something. And I notice when I feel that way, I feel bad. It's like I'm punishing myself for that. It's almost a way to get closer, right? So if I'm in joy and I feel shame, it almost feels like I can bring myself closer to their experience because I'm holding back, right? But what happens is I cannot control what's happening to the other person. I can control what's happening to me. And so this is a very different than saying, you should just turn off the news and not look, right? Because then that means I'm dissociating and not connecting to people, right? So healthy boundaries is interconnected. It's not anti-dependent and it's not codependent. It's interdependent, knowing that I am connected to everyone on this planet, regardless if I know them yet or not. Okay. And understanding that my way of living impacts everybody and vice versa. Right. So when we drop into shame or guilt or dissociation, right, not just ignoring what else is happening around us, those are all trauma reactions, which makes total sense because it's either too much to manage or, we kind of get lost in it. So just know that if I'm lost in it or feeling shame or trying to ignore everything, I'm just in a trauma reaction and I need to regulate. So the orienting or connecting to nature or going for a walk, taking a nap, those types of things will help kind of break that. Okay. I've been reading this book called Rest is Resistance, a Manifesto by Tricia Hersey. I'm like on my second audio listening to it because I can't read books. It's easier for me to ingest by listening. And I highly recommend, if you haven't read the book, to really read it. So Rest is Resistance. Tricia Hersey is a Black artist, and she created this thing called nap ministry. So it's like, just take naps. Like, because she was so, multiple jobs, parenting, grad school, all these other things, her body was so exhausted and her ancestry was connected to enslaved people. And so it was like this this acceptance of exhaustion as just the way it is, right? This like grind culture that we've all learned through capitalism too. Right. And so she really talks about rest as resistance, really resting and not equating your value with productivity or a nice home or, whatever. And so in this moment, joy is resistance too. So as people are suffering, our joy, our commitment to creating joy, even in the midst of so much suffering and injustice, is resisting what's happening, is doing our part to bring more light and more love and more connection all around us. And sometimes it's helpful for me as I'm like, oh gosh, what can I do next? How can I help? I have to remind myself, right? Because when I get into these places like, what movement can I start or what can I do? It's like me outsizing my role, right? Because my job is not to heal everything in my lifetime because it's not possible. And I'm also not God, right? Like, come on. And so my goal is to, how do I not focus on healing everything and everyone around me, but how do I also not focus on just healing myself? For me, it's how do I focus on living my life authentically and embodied? And when I commit to living my life embodied and authentically, I will naturally come across the places that I need healing. But my focus should be on the living part of it. And part of that is joy. I don't know about you, but when I focus on like my to-do list and like how tired I am, I have no energy. But if I focus on like, oh, this is, I can, do this for somebody else, or I can do that, or I can rest, or it gives me more energy. And so it's how do you use your body as the tool, right, to live your life, and also to get a sense on, am I focusing or recharging so that I can sustain myself, because my life is why I'm here, right? And the other thing is sometimes capitalism makes us think like our life is about getting as much stuff as we can, right? And that's, again, anti-dependence. And also, if I'm resource hoarding, it means other people don't get as much, right? And so again, it's how do I commit to living my life and allowing enough resource and space for everyone else to live theirs too freely? Because I matter and you matter, and the people who we don't know yet in person matter as much. There's research done on in India. There was research done on monkeys. They had this like cap. They were trying to understand how the brain works and blah blah blah. And these researchers, while the monkeys had the like a little cap on tracking their brain movements, one of the researchers was eating an ice cream cone. And the researchers could see on the screen, like the monkeys that were not eating an ice cream cone, the part of their brain that was about joy and enjoyment was like firing. And they're like, this is interesting. Eating the, and the monkeys are looking, right? And so what we've learned about the brain is the brain doesn't know the difference between something imagined and something that's actually happening, right? So we went through this visualization, and you might have had physical sensations from it because we were impacting or influencing what we were perceiving, right? So I think in times of stress, often we can use our body to go, am I feeling energized or am I feeling tired, exhausted, hopeless, joyless, or am I feeling joyful? And if I'm not, it's not that there's something wrong with me or that things are actually hopeless, right? It's actually what am I focusing on that might be impacting how my body feels. So am I focusing on the lush forest that I'm part of? Or am I focusing on the part that's not? Right? And so part of this is an invitation of how might we use how our brain works to our advantage? Yes, limiting media consumption while still staying plugged in, but also what are the parts that I can do to create a sense of joy and aliveness in my body now with what I have? And so going back to the book by Tricia Hersey, Rest is Resistance, she explains in the book beautifully, rest is actually a necessity. It's not like, well, when you get everything done, then you can rest. Then that's like your luxury. You can kick your feet up and blah, blah, blah. She's saying it's so warped with capitalism that we think we have to earn rest. When in actuality, our bodies need rest. as human beings, we need to rest. To actually be able to live our lives, we have to rest this body, right? The same thing is the case with joy. Humans have a right to feel joyful, happy, right? And so as you commit to creating joy amidst all of this stress too, you have to. Otherwise, you're going to burn out. Otherwise, this life is going to pass you by and you're not having lived it, right? And so you committing to creating joy in your life and then kind of seeing it go beyond you is what we have control over. So the last part of this is, I'm not a scientist, so so the butterfly effect, it's like chaos theory, right? So if there's like a group of butterflies in the southern hemispheres, they can affect the weather pattern and create like a tornado in another part of the globe, right? It's like the butterfly effect is what it's called. It's based on chaos theory. So basically, what I believe is if I can cultivate joy in myself, and then because I'm in a joyful state, I'm going to interact with my kids in a particular way. And then I'm going to interact with strangers on the street in a particular way because I am living from this place of abundance and joy because I'm focusing on what I can control and what I can keep doing. Then I'm going to be spreading that joy of seeing someone else as human and as important as I am and as rightful to joy and happiness and freedom as I am. And that will just gradually impact, right, and energize and validate and value other people. And so this is like one particular way we can concretely change the world is by doing it internally, and then it impacts how we relate to others. Okay, so let's take a minute and just notice what's happening in your body. And then I can open it up if anyone wants to check in. And before I do that, I'm going to make sure that I'm spotlighted. So what that means is when it's recording and you check in, your face doesn't come up in the recording. And so if you want to check in, because I'm recording it, just use some discretion around like details you might want to check in about. And if you don't want to record it, you can also tell me. Yeah, let's see. Does anyone want to check in? How are you doing as we talk about joy in this really hard time? Yes, whose hand is raised? Maria.
Hey,
Nice to see you.
nice to see you. I think I have a harder time like understanding that I deserve joy. I think I think that's probably like the hardest for me right now. Like just like the description that you were saying, my reason was like, yeah, that makes sense, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like why you don't think you deserve joy.
Can I just ask a question, Maria?
Mm.
When you say, I don't think I deserve, is it deserve joy?
It's kind of like, yeah,
Okay.
I would say like joy or like happiness.
Mm-hmm. So I want you to I don't want you to say it out loud. Part of me feels like I don't deserve joy and happiness. And you don't have to say it. I want you to notice what's happening in your body and you breathe. Okay, so Good. I want you to put your hand there. And then I invite other people in the group to put their hand there too. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a kind of a container for Maria. Okay. What's the sensation?
Like knives.
Knives. So sharp, so pain. Yeah. Okay. What's the emotion? So it's a pain, it's sharp. What's the emotion? Can you feel?
I it's like melancholy and like
Mm-hmm.
kind of like impotent.
Impotent, like, so no power.
Yeah,
Okay. So melancholy, so sadness and maybe hopelessness.
yeah.
Okay. So I just want you to notice that. Oh, this feeling in my chest is me feeling melancholy and impotent, feeling sadness and hopeless. What happens in that sensation now in your chest?
It kind of like spreads through. It
Mm-hmm.
goes to like my stomach and then my jaw,
Mm-hmm. Who's driving the bus, Maria?
the twin.
The tween? Okay. So I always like to imagine like I have everyone seated in a particular way. So my tween is always across from me. When you feel into, so remember the visualization is like you grounded, right, and filled up with light. That's your access to your prefrontal cortex, your functional adult. When you feel into your tween, what is your tween feeling?
Um, it's really, really mean.
Mm-hmm. Mean?
Uh,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and I think, um, but I think behind her try to be mean, she's just really sad.
Yes. Really
But
sad.
but I can see it, and
Mm-hmm.
um, I have been dealing with a lot of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I have been saying, it's okay if you're sad, but I think I find it hard for her to believe me that it's okay to be sad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then what you want, my suggestion is if we can visualize, and when I invite people to like put their hand there, if you want to change it, that's fine. And I want you to also imagine yourself. So anytime someone checks in, it's like a gift to us because we're all connected with similar sensations and feelings. Okay. So I want you to imagine, Maria, your little one on your lap and your tween across from you. Okay. And I'm going to suggest talking to the little one first and just hold and say, I've got you. Only look to me, nobody else. I'm your functional adult, and I know that you deserve good things, and you deserve the life that I'm going to create you. And I know that some people said really mean things and did things, and I'm not going to let that happen anymore. None of it was about you. And just hold them, right? And all the tears that are coming, because this is like frozen stuff that's happening, right? Is this too intense, Maria? Or is it okay? Is it okay? Good. And then while you're holding your little one and reminding her to only look to you, right? I want you to, like, as you're rocking, just look over to the tween and go, oh my gosh, you are perfect. You are going through a time of transition and puberty and figuring out who you are and not feeling safe to do that. And I am here now, and I'm going to create that safety for you because you belong to me. And I will only allow people who celebrate you to be close to us. Only look to me. How does that feel?
It feels good.
Yeah. And just remind the tween, because tweens and teenagers think that they know better for the little ones. Just like a reminder, like, you're not a good parent. I'm here now. Like, don't police this little one, right? Let her explore and be free and connect with joy.
Yeah, I think like I was having like worse, like everything was being really overwhelmed. So like I decided to paint them, right? Thinking that I will see it.
Hmm.
And then I noticed that my little one and my teenager were happy to see themselves, right?
Hmm.
But my twin was having like really the resistance
Hmm.
because it's like, oh no, I know better than the teenager and the
Hmm.
little one,
Hmm. Hmm.
which doesn't make sense because you're like in the middle, like you're not better than any of them, right?
Hmm. But
So,
that might point to just a little bit more healing that needs to come in, that it wasn't safe during that time to explore identity,
mhm,
right?
yeah,
And so it's really connecting and not forcing. Just say,
mm,
it's okay that you feel this angry or fearful. It makes sense. You went through a lot, and I'm here now.
mm.
Notice what's happening in your chest now.
Ah, I feel I can breathe.
Good, good. Thank you for
Ah,
sharing that, Maria. So what
mhm.
just happened is, like, when we do these gatherings, like whatever comes up is just data, right? So Maria, you felt something, this sharp pain in your chest, and noticed you don't feel like worthy, right? This is all toxicity ingested from the society, right? So trauma decontextualized in a person looks like personality,
Mm,
right? This resistance to joy or not feeling deserving is actually trauma decontextualized, right? And the trauma decontextualized within a family looks like family traits. So if they were conservative or however they were, right, was actually decontextualized trauma.
mm,
Trauma in a group of people decontextualized looks like culture, right?
mm,
And so if you're holding a belief system that you inherited generationally, societally, or personally, it just gets frozen in the body. So as we were talking, you're like, it's kind of spreading. And that's because you're metabolizing it. You're
mm,
actually digesting it. And now, because maybe you're seeing it in a different perspective or understanding it differently or creating a little bit more safety and space around it, in the digesting of it, you're actually absorbing the nutrients that you wanted, that you needed from it,
mm,
right? Which is really bad. That happened. It wasn't safe. And now I'm more clear on how I make myself safe and who I allow near me, right? And so my suggestion is, you don't want to go from like 0 to 10, like, I'm going to be so happy now, because it's too much stretch for the nervous system, right? So it's got to be kind of gradual. So my suggestion is, because you started with the place of I didn't feel deserving, I want you to start like thinking to yourself, I'm ready to consider it. How does that feel?
That feels funny.
Right? Okay. And so as you come across, your day, if there's something that you're wanting and you might be resistant to it, just be like, I'm supposed to be exploring, right? I'll consider it. Yeah, I'll get this ice cream cone now, right? Or I'll take a nap now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Anyone else have anything to check in about? Just everyone here is free to, because go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
So I guess like kind of like checking in and stuff, and it's been a interesting, I guess, past few months, obviously, as you know, but like, for the past few months, and it's trying to figure out ways to make this upcoming year more exciting and more interesting and more, I
Mhm.
guess, like joyful, and trying to
So when we talked
like
about the joy, Angie, did you feel a possibility of it?
not really. It was hard to conceptualize
Mm-hmm.
what would be and like what would make me joyful, and then what I would have to do to
Mm,
be joyful. Like, do I take time to myself? Like, what do I like to do? Like, like I know like what is really joy, I guess, in my regard. So it's kind of like thinking about that quite often during it. And so
mm-hmm,
while you were talking, so I was thinking about obviously like the reading and rest and vacations and maybe taking time to do that type of stuff. And if that brings joy, or if it's a sense of contentment, or
mm-hmm,
because there have been different points where I would say I'm happy, where I like this moment, and I would try to remember the moment, and then I would think, okay, because this things are going to probably all go to hell at some point. And so I remember thinking that periodically throughout my life,
mm-hmm,
and stuff. And so, yeah, but it was just kind of hard to conceptualize of what would be joyful
mm-hmm.
long term.
Where are you conceptualizing it in your body?
I guess my head, I guess, like I'm,
Okay. Who's driving the bus?
I guess a teenager. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And so it's not bad or good or whatever. It's just data. So if I'm conceptualizing it, I'm in my head trying to figure it out, right? And so joy or living is actually in the body. Okay. So if you're trying to figure it out, it just is a clue that you're in your teenager. Okay. And so if you're in your teenager, it's like, okay, so I need to regulate that part. Right. And so even just like what's the emotion in your head? Or the sensation
I,
first and then the emotion?
I think somewhat can, I don't know if it's emotions, confusion is an emotion, but somewhat like a bit of confusion, and it's not really like a tense thing in my head, but like a kind of a, like that kind of squeezing feeling you get, but kind of, it's, yeah, I don't quite, it's hard to articulate, but it's hard
Mm.
to also figure out that or understand that I do understand that I'm trying to intellectualize something that you shouldn't really intellectualize, I guess, or think, or it's something that I'm supposed to be feeling, but I'm not sure.
Should or supposed to is also the teenager.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not okay. So I want us to, or I invite you, Angie, to go, okay, so it's in my head. I'm trying to figure this out, my teenager. And I want you to just kind of, if you want to put a hand on your body, just kind of activate your body and reconnect your head to your body. Okay. And just like with Maria, I invite you all to do this exploration if it resonates for you too, of like, oh, sometimes I'm trying to figure out how to fix the problem. And it's like, no, the issue is how do you get to your body? So you have, because it's an endless resource. There's so much wisdom there in the body. Okay. And so when you kind of just remind yourself to imagine like bringing in light into your body and just breathing, right? And just, I often like to just imagine butting shoulders with my teenager and just be like, whoo, I am so proud of you. You have survived like so much. right? I'm so proud of all the ways that you adapted to get through all these different changes that have been happening. And you are a rock star. I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much for all you've done. And however you're feeling right now, the overwhelm, the confusion, makes total sense. I totally get it. And I am here now. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one moment at a time. And what I want to remind you, teenager, is that you can take your hands off the wheel and let me drive. And we're going to have to drive real slow because we got a lot that's going on right now. And so remember, the joy might be in me connecting with you moment by moment, or a quiet thing, not something big. The joy is me connecting with you. And I am so excited to know you and to create space for you to just be and not have to figure things out. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so anytime there's like a teen or a tween, wounded child is always there. It's just a given. And so imagine having your little one in your lap and say, hey, I'm here. Lots going on, and I'm here, and I see you, and I'm going to protect you, and I'm going to love you, and I'm always going to have your back, and you ain't going anywhere. Right? And so this might be a moment where just like, you know what? Why don't we pull the bus to the side of the road? I saw a little like, let's just build a campfire. We'll make some s'mores and just like rest and hang out right now. We don't got to go anywhere yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that feel?
It feels good in that I don't have to do anything in terms of like that. So it feels a little bit, I guess, liberating in certain regards and kind of like freeing.
Where do you feel that liberating and freeing sensation in your body?
Like my back, chest.
Mm-hmm. So because it's hard to touch the back, I want you to put your hand on your chest. What's the sensation in your body?
It's usually like tense, I find. So it was like a kind of a tenseness.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's kind of dissipating, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so for just a second, Angie, I want you to imagine, right? So the softening or the less tenseness in your chest, right?
Mm-hmm.
You putting your hand there actually kind of deepens it or spreads it. And then I want you to just allow us to kind of grow it with you, right? So that we're holding that softness, that openness with you. And then just like being able to witness with you that you don't have to go anywhere. And we're supporting you in your liberation and your exhaustion. And you're like, let's just take a pause. Does that make sense? We're with you on that.
Yeah.
Okay, because sometimes when the teenager wants to active and drive the bus, it's like they have to figure out how to fix the solution. It's like, or find the solution, fix the problem. And it's like, this is just, we're in it right now.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's no going anywhere. It's just, we're just going to hunker down.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah. No, it does. Yeah. Yeah.
The brightness and the light you can bring to yourself in seeing yourself, like, and go, I am so happy to see you. For yourself, like you go into a mirror and you're just like, you know, is joy. And it's medicine, right? You giving that to yourself. You feeding that to yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad you came today.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for inviting me.
The other two people in the group, do you need anything? You don't have to. Yes, please. Go ahead.
I just wanted to thank the others who were here and spoke because it really was very nourishing to hear other people struggling to find the joy. And I especially enjoyed the reminder that the way that our society works, like I haven't taught myself how to be productive in order to then, enjoy after the productivity. So I took a lot in physically just from hearing that reminder. So thank you.
Mhm. Thank you for that reflection, Alec. I'm going to offer the space to you, Christine. You don't have to.
I and I'm having some audio problems right now.
Mhm.
Okay, if I sign out and back in,
Oh,
can you like,
oh,
it's
absolutely.
like
I can let you
that
back in. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's doing that thing.
Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, let me make sure I'm still spotted. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. I also don't want to pressure you.
No, that's great. Thank you. Um, I have two things that have been coming up for me a lot, and they're different. So I'm trying to think of which one to go with. And maybe I'll start here. And I don't know if it's a question, it's just something that comes up in talking about this. I feel very fortunate in that kind of the work I'm doing right now, claiming claiming like a title or role as an artist. And that's what I've been doing. That is the very thing that brings me a lot of joy. It's very meditative and healing for me. And I think it's been happening for me lately is that it's become really hard to sink in to it. And that's in part because and maybe it's just thinking about it like how I approach it differently, but a lot of where my inspiration comes from and a lot of the connection to other artists happens online. And a lot of when I create the sharing out happens online. And I find that that's been really hard to do because that space is shared with a lot of horrible things that are happening in the world that I feel like I need to stay tapped into, but it feels very trivial and not okay to be then sharing my joy there or absorbing.
So just notice what's happening in your body right now. Where do you feel a sensation?
Right there.
So I want you to put your hand there. Again, I invite others to explore this too. I have something joyful to share with the world. What's the sensation in your body right there? Breathe.
Like a lump, but it's slowly fading.
What's the emotion?
I think it's I think it's grief. I have a lot of grief. Mhm.
Yeah. Breathe into it. So just, it's like you're noting to your body, like, oh, this is grief. Do you feel comfortable sharing a little bit of what the grief is about?
Yeah, I think that kind of goes into the other thing that happens for me a lot is a lot of my joy comes from spending time with my kids who are 4 and 6.
Mm,
And because my work then coincides with the space where I'm seeing what's happening in the world, and I feel like it's necessary to not look away.
mhm.
Um, but it's weird because the way algorithms work, when you don't look away, you're fed more of it. So I'm
Mhm.
seeing images of what feels literally like my children.
Yes.
Um,
So just pause. I'm seeing someone else's children who are loved as much as I love my children.
mhm.
Where do you feel that in your body?
Just all in there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So,
Matt, I want you to root to the earth because this is really, really big. Because this is not just what's happening in Gaza. This is collective trauma on every single land. This happened. Okay?
mhm.
So just understanding that you are tapping into collective trauma now. And so you're going to need to resource and connect with community, which we're in right now, to metabolize this. So a lot of it is bringing it to the earth too. Okay? I interrupted you.
Oh, that's okay. Um, I think that I was just gonna add, like, it's almost like the bigger that the joy is, the bigger those waves of grief hit.
Yes. Hmm. Do you know why? A trauma reaction to pain is to shrink down and tighten so it never happens again. So it's like this resistance to living fully and embodying and risking things because you might be hurt again, right? That's anxiety and that's fear because I don't want this pain to happen again. But when you tap into your joy, Christy, like what feeds your soul, what you're doing is you're tapping into all the other times that people didn't get to. And so on one end, it makes sense that you want to like, oh, but they didn't get to live out their joy because of oppression or injustice or famine or war or whatever, right? Holding that down though, it's like staying close, but it doesn't set anyone free. That makes sense? So I wonder if the shift is I notice that when I feel this joy, I feel waves of grief, and you just breathe through it and go, I am feeling joy for you. I am going to live my life in your honor. None of this is going to be in vain. I'm going to connect to all these different ways and I'm going to create beauty. Artistry is sacred work. What happens when you hear me say that?
I don't know.
Are you in your body?
I think so.
Mhm,
So I think it feels like a little bit of relief or
mhm.
like permission, like yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder if you sit with the pain, right? Of it's the joy that your kids bring and the joy that your art brings. And how do you bring that with the pain that is around you? So it's the same thing as like, how do you metabolize it and get the nourishment in a different way? Right? So maybe it's creating art in their honor or, out of the pain, creating something anew. I mean, that's what compost is, right? This is an opportunity to create something beautiful with something that's so profane. And I don't want it like, oh, for you to deserve it, you have to make it like this. That's not. But I'm wondering, Christy, is if there is this tension because there might be a missing piece to do you know what I mean? Does that resonate?
Yeah.
Because you holding back out of whatever the sensation is, right, is not going to serve anyone. And so if you're wanting to share it, my suggestion is you narrate, like, I want to share this piece that I've been working on. And part of me feels like I shouldn't because there's so much pain out there. And part of me feels like I should because there's so much pain out there. And so I hope, you can receive it as a moment of beauty, or I offer it as a moment of peace, and just put it out there. And then you remind your teenager and your little one what they think is none of my business. It's none of our business. My business is living embodied authentically as I am without oppressing anybody else. So I'm going to put it out there because what I create, who I am, I'm putting it out there because that's a gift to the world. How does that feel?
Feels better.
Mm-hmm. Now just scan your body now and just notice any sensations.
Just less clogged,
Mm-hmm.
lumpy.
Mm-hmm. So after this call, for everyone, just to make sure you do something like that's like either go for a walk or like make yourself a cup of tea or something to create some allowing this to settle in your nervous system. Because we did these like little moments might not feel like a lot, but it's actually digested quite a bit collectively. Okay. When you think about creating art now, Christy, what happens in your body?
It still feels good. Yeah, I mean, creating always feels good. I think having a reframe around sharing, because it feels like I can do a lot of creating, but it sort of gets stuck if it all just stays at me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because we are social creatures and we are meant to connect with each other. So that original image about the trees in the forest and the roots are like they literally talk to each other. It's like an internet underground, right? So it's the same thing for us. We need to connect with each other and to remember that we're actually not separate being, like we're just part of a larger whole. Does that make sense? And so when you share yourself and be witnessed, not to be validated, but to be seen, right? That is adding that is healing to the whole. Because you're claiming yourself. I am an artist. And this is what I bring to the world and sharing it. Even in times of pain. That is one of the most prolific times, is when there's a lot of pain and like revolution. And the art is like incredible. Because what artists are doing is they're metabolizing it and creating something that, you know, is inspiring and hopeful. And we need that. Is that good, Christy?
Yeah, thank you.
Good. You're welcome.
Helpful to have a little thing I can
Mm-hmm.
tuck in my pocket and replay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good. Alec? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you for catching that. I want to make sure that I follow the rules, and I know that we are here to help ourselves, right? Because we are driving our
Mhm.
own vehicles.
Mhm.
But I did want to echo that as someone who gets a lot of solace and joy from art that others have created, visual, poetry,
Mhm.
etc. I just wanted to enthusiastically support the idea that in so many ways the art that goes out into the world from other people is what's helping to bring joy. And I thank fellow artists for that, including the ones on this call that I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Right. Beautiful. Thank you. So funny. I had this poem. I did not write it. I'm going to share it if I find it. Let me see. Alok Menon. I'm going to share it and read it too. Very clumsily, I'm going to share it. Okay. Can you read it? Oh, no, it's. Oh, I thought. Anyway, I'll read it. So Alok V. Menon, fantastic writer, poet, performer, and around non-binary, raising awareness for LGBTQ and sexual expression, and just like anti-establishment in the sense of like non-binary, just think outside of the box. So totally everything that comes out of their mouth is just incredible. So this is a list of New Year's intentions that they had another time. And so 1, rediscover symphony in the silence. Solitude is not loneliness. 2, insist on reciprocity. Leave when unrequited, even when it hurts. 3, your heart is infinite, but your body is not. This is not a limitation. It is a gift. 4, in a world hell-bent on destruction, do not just critique. Create, create, create. 5, embrace, respect, celebrate, desire, defend femininity. 6, resist superficial inclusion, dream beyond binaries, assert your multitudes. 7, need everyone harder. There are no strangers, just potential friends. 8, recognize your words and your pain beyond their ability to be aestheticized. I can't see it. 9, apocalypse is not inevitable. Fight for the people that you are and the people that you love. 10, their ugly is your beauty. Their messy is your magnificent. Their broken is your becoming. 11, grieve it all. Everything deserves a funeral. I'll send this out as like a digital thing. And then I'm going to also share now the last thing. So if you're not feeling joy, let me create it. I'm not having these difficulties. Okay. And so remember when I said the brain doesn't know the difference between imagined and lived, right? And so you got to be very careful about what you're focusing on, what you're thinking, because it's going to directly impact how your body feels. So if you don't feel joy, you create it by, these are the 4 hormones that your body can create. Okay. So dopamine is a rewarding chemical. And you experience this when you complete a task. I would make it very small, like I got out of bed, like, and make it super small and go check. Okay. Doing self-care activities, eating food, and celebrating little wins. Oxytocin is the love hormone. So hugging your loved ones. And if there's no one to hug around you, I hug myself. And I imagine hugging my little ones. I'll get pillows on me and I'll just start hugging them. Okay. Playing with a dog, playing with a baby, holding hands. Okay, the body doesn't know the difference. I will start looking up like baby animals. And and that will help, right? So if I don't have access to these things in front of me, the internet is remarkable. Serotonin helps with mood. So any sun exposure, like those happy lights or meditating, running, being in nature. And endorphins are painkillers. So laughing, I think in Japan, they have this like belly laughter groups, and they just stand together and they just start laughing, and they make sure that they engage their belly muscles. Like, so laughing, maybe watching a funny movie, or exercising will help. Dark chocolate and essential oils. So it's like if you don't feel joy, you can create it. So what it is, reminder as we finish today, it's like just like rest is a necessity, so is joy, right? Because living your life is what it's there for, right? Healing is not the goal. Living your life is the goal. When things get in the way of that, then you deal with that. So if you need to heal something, you do that. You deal with it then. So what's inhibiting you from fully living embodied, you just deal with it then. But focusing on you and you living your life joyfully and responsibly and equitably and resource sharing and loving each other, right? As though they were soon to be friends, not strangers, is the way that we're going to get through this, because then we're going to resource each other, right? And so filling up our cup and our battery is about, how do we be in joy? How do we be connected? And when we're not in joy, that's not like an opportunity for the teenager to berate us. It's just data like, oh, I took a wrong turn. And it's not really wrong. It's just a turn that I took and I'm just going to go in a different direction, right? Because this is your life. There's no mistakes. It's just a decision and an outcome. And you can pivot at any time. Because you're the author. You're like the driver of your bus. So, okay. So if you want more, there's a book that I wrote, Boundary Revolution. It's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Let your friends or other folks know that I have spots available for one-on-one coaching or couples coaching starting in February. I have a Boundaries 2.0 starting in March. So those are graduates of the level 1 course. And then I'm going to start my online boundary classes. So they'll be asynchronous starting in February. And then these are all my social media handles.